Welcome back to Round the Game, an honest conversation with interesting guests who have a unique relationship to this game that we love. Today, really excited, a mutual of mine, a Chicago Bulls diehard, a lover of old school basketball, one of the best follows that you could have on Twitter, and honestly, probably the most jacked hooper that you know from J Talks Hoops. Everybody, welcome Justin to the channel. Really appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to sit down and talk some hoops.
We've been mutuals for a while. I think that you have a great basketball mind, but for the audience here, I kind of want you to explain who you are as a basketball fan. How did you fall in love with the game, and then how did the Chicago Bulls come into it?
The Bulls are actually how I fell in love with the game. So I think I was like 6 years old when I first watched basketball, and it was my stepdad had the finals on. It was no, I was seven. It was Jazz versus Bulls. It was the flu game, and I was just mesmerized watching Michael Jordan. I mean, the broadcast made it seem like he was fighting like the craziest sickness you'd ever heard of, and it made it as a kid like that was Superman to me, just seeing him battle that score. So from that point on, I was hooked, and so it was the Bulls right away. Loved Michael Jordan for a brief time. I loved Penny Hardaway. He was like my first favorite player. I had that little penny doll that they used to make. And then it was Kobe, but through it all, my team has always been the Chicago Bulls. I've always been ride or die for the Chicago Bulls. So, yeah, I blame Michael Jordan. He basically, indoctrinated me into this lifestyle.
With you being a fan of like that, especially that archetype of player, how bummed were you when Kobe didn't get traded to the Bulls in 2007?
Oh, I was pissed. I thought he was coming for sure. I was so mad. And then it's like when you read about the story, they always made it seem like the Bulls didn't want to do the trade. But what happened was Kobe looked at the trade and was like, wait, they're going to give up Luol Deng, Joakim Noah, Kirk Heinrich. Like, I'm going to be playing with nobody. I don't want to do that. So I get why he didn't want to, because it would have sucked if he had been here just by himself.
Yeah, I definitely don't blame him for making the decision that he did. And he got two extra rings out of it. So, I mean, I feel like that was a pretty good decision all around. I kind of want to tap into the content creation side from you. You, at one point, were a great walk and talk content creator, but now because of an injury that you have, it's more of a drive and talk. But still, I love being able to open up TikTok and see your kind of like review of last night's scope of games. I think you have a really interesting perspective on it. I want to know what it was like for the first time you hit send, though. Like, what was the catalyst behind you creating content?
So the catalyst was it was right before the 22-23 season. So I really wasn't on Twitter or any social media before that. And then, but I was a diehard Bulls fan. I've had League Pass forever. I watch every game, and I tore my bicep, and my brother was like, dude, you're going to have a lot of free time. Just like make a podcast or do something. Like, you watch too much basketball to not talk about it. So I made the Twitter account. Back then I called myself the Bloody Horns Podcast, and I only talked Chicago Bulls stuff. And I would record an actual podcast. I would do like post game podcasts, and just grinded away on that while I recovered from surgery. And after a while, I just got bored of only talking about the Bulls because I watched honestly way too much basketball. So that's when I switched it. It became J Talks Hoops about a year ago now, and I just started, just being out with my dog every day. I was like, I can make these walks a little bit more productive. Why don't I just record like a 5 minute walk and talk while I do it, rather than, because my life got so busy that I didn't have time to sit back and just record podcasts every day or every week or anything like that. So it was just an easy way for me to do some short form I think my longest ones are like 8, maybe 9 minutes, some short form content, just get my thoughts out there. And ever since I started doing it that way, the following has just kind of been taken off, especially more so on the Twitter side, but the TikTok following increases every day. Still haven't really figured out how to crack like a solid YouTube following, but just gonna keep plugging and posting, I guess.
That's sort of similar to how I started. I, love basketball I'm 31 now, and I've loved this game for like 25 years. Like, just kind of ingrained into me. And someone that I'm friends with and was like kind of getting into basketball was like just pinging me about different stuff. Like, hey, what do you think about this? What about this? Would you trade this for this? Whatever the case was. And then he said, you like love basketball. Like, why are you doing something with it? And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you're going to have these thoughts anyway. You might as well hit send on a TikTok or a YouTube video or whatever. And I went, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I think I will. And then it's kind of turned into what it's turned into. So really can't be more thankful for that person in my life. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's super similar. If you have an idea, just send it out. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Right. I mean, you look at how many people have these large following. Like the thing, since I've really started getting into it, the thing that bothers me is how many people have these large followings, and you could tell they either one don't really watch the games, or two they don't really love basketball. They're out there to just kind of get clicks, get attention. So it's like when there's people like yourself or me or some of my other favorite follows where you can tell we actually watch the game and we have a genuine love for the game. Those kind of people are always going to shine through and build and get some kind of following because I think people are kind of sick of what a lot of basketball coverage has become, especially on the social media side.
The social media portion is like just an absolute slog to go through. There are obviously people who, like you said, care about the game, but the majority of it is just clickbaity. It's like engagement bait and this whole thing. I had Colin Hatfield on. I at the time of recording this video, I interviewed him yesterday, and we were talking about just like bad faith arguments within the basketball community. And it goes even further than that because there's this guy. I refuse to acknowledge him by name, but he's my mortal enemy. His whole entire shtick is those filters that you see, like top 5 point guards, like rank these players or whatever, and just saying the most outlandish stuff. Like, I remember it was a top 5 point guard list. First name that comes up is the Pistons' Isaiah Thomas. He goes, "Oh yeah, bets greatest point guard of all time, number one." Boop. I go, "Okay." You can have a
I mean,
conversation, sure, but there's like two people at the top of that list, and either one is fine. Isaiah Thomas, though, respectfully, is not there, and it's this whole thing. He has like 300,000 followers just doing stuff like that. It's crazy.
that's kind of what the social media game is just like clickbait, engagement baiting type of stuff. Yeah, it's annoying because, like, no disrespect to Isaiah, I personally have him in my top 5 point guards, maybe even closer to three. But yeah, number one, it's to me, it's always going to be Magic Johnson. I'll understand if other people got Steph Curry, but like, it's really not like you can't call Isaiah number one. That's insane.
It got to the point where I would see him so frequently because normally I don't like to block people unless I have to, but I saw him so frequently and it pissed me off so much that I had to block him. I just can't do it anymore.
I have a rule where I don't block anybody. I just mute them because to me it's hilarious that there's people I've had muted for years. Every once in a while, like somebody will respond to them responding to me, so I'll see what they said. But it's just hilarious to me that they don't know that I muted them. They're just like yelling in the ether, and it's like I don't even know who you are, bro. I'm not seeing any of this stuff.
For this intense love that you had for basketball, I have to ask like the most cliche question there is. Did you ever have hoop dreams? And if you did, who dashed them?
Oh hell yeah, I did, man. I was obsessed. Like my neighbors hated me as a kid because I would be out in the driveway shooting hoops till like 10 o'clock at night, and on the weekends I'd be up early. I'd be doing it too. I had no manners at all. So I played basketball. I played all 4 years in high school. I had a little varsity run. I got a couple of looks, couple D3 looks. But my senior year, I got hurt. I broke my collarbone, and I just kind of realized it wasn't necessarily happening for me. More so, so I was a really good football player. I was all right on the basketball court too. I was just really athletic as a basketball player. I'm about 5'10", and I could dunk, and that always just people were like a 5'10" white kid that can dunk. Like this doesn't make sense. I got invited in between junior and senior year to a Nike Invitational camp, and during the first night we were doing a pickup run, and all the coaches and the college players that were helping out were kind of watching us run. And I went up and had a tip slam, and the gym went silent. They didn't know that I could do that, so it was like I was good. I was a decent basketball player, but I was a good football player. And I had a lot of football offers. But my junior year of football, we ended up playing. We made it to state, and I tell this story all the time because it's when I realized like I'm not going pro in anything. We played against a team that had a guy by the name of Michael Floyd, who went on to be, I believe, the 10th overall pick by the Arizona Cardinals. He had some drinking problems and he drank his way out of the NFL basically. But this kid was like 6'4", 210. I think he ran like 4.340 at the combine. And I played safety. And I'll never forget, like the third play of the game, my routine as a safety is ball would hike. I would see the receiver. I'd look and see where the quarterback's eyes were. And then I'd go back, make sure the receiver was good. By the time I looked at the quarterback, he was like already past me. And they just bombed it to him. He probably had like 200 yards against us that day. And that was the moment when I was like, I'm not going pro. So even then when it got to the point, like after I recovered from my injury as a broken collarbone that kept me out most of my senior year, I still had some offers. St. John's, the local D3 college, has won a couple national titles here in Minnesota, and they wanted me to come on, but I was like, I'm not going pro. I'm not going to riddle myself with student debt because they're a private college too, and they'll give you like grants and stuff to help out, but that's still a lot. Like I'm gonna give up my hoop dreams, my football dreams, anything like that. I'm just gonna focus on life now. So, but yeah, I always had hoop dreams growing up. Always played. I still play to this day. Mine is I broke my foot like a month ago now, but I get in pickup runs twice a week, and people are always like, man, I'm 36 now, and they're like, when are you gonna stop playing basketball? I'm like, I hope I never stop playing basketball just because it's fun to me.
I was talking about this with another guest that I interviewed. We were talking about his hoop dreams, and mine were dashed by this guy named Jason Cuffey, who went to a rival school than I did. And at the time, I was a sophomore. I dressed varsity, but I didn't play, so I had a lot of time to like pay attention to the great athletes. And this guy, man, super springy, like a 38-inch vert, the cleanest jumper you've ever seen in your life. This guy scored 29 points in 7 minutes of action and then just sat the rest of
God
the
damn.
game, just like a pure bucket getter. And I thought, this is the greatest athlete, the greatest basketball player I've ever seen with my own two eyes. Incredible. And he was a senior that year. I found out that he went D2. And,
Mm-hmm.
respectfully to like every single athlete out there, I would have thought that he would have went to Kentucky or UCLA or like one of a blue blood schools. And to go D2 after I thought you were the greatest, I went, yeah, dude, I got to hang this up. I have no shot.
So it's funny that same junior year. So we're playing basketball. It's a couple months later, and we're playing against Bloomington Jefferson. And they got a kid. You may have heard of him. His name was Cole Aldridge. Ended up being an NBA lottery pick. And it's funny because he's a bust. Like in NBA terms, he's a bust. He was in the NBA. He was just a stiff white dude. Like couldn't really do anything. I'm telling you, man, when he played against us, he brought the ball up for them. He was crossing people up. He was hitting jump shots. He dunked on me. Like we got killed by them. And I need to find the picture and post it on my Twitter because objectively, it's a hilarious picture if I can ever find it. I was frustrated. It's late in the fourth. I threw a lazy pass. He stole it. And me having an ego, I was like, I'm going to pack his shit. I'm going to block it. And I ran and I jumped as high as I could and I met him at the peak and he was 7 feet tall. He yammed it on me. And my own school ran the picture in the school paper for like front page for the game review. I was like, damn, you guys really put me on blast like that. My own school has a picture of me getting dunked on. So I should see if any of my high school friends still have that school paper laying around or anything. 'Cause it was crazy. But yeah, watching him, he went to Kansas and he didn't really tear it up at Kansas the way that I thought he would. But then he was still a top 10 pick, I think, by the Thunder. But watching how fast he washed out, that's when you realize like what Brian Scalabrine said when he was schooling those pickup players. He was like, "I'm closer to LeBron James than you are to me." Like NBA players are just a different breed, man.
Before we got to transition into your calling card, your trait, your profession, I do want to ask you about this tweet, and I didn't put it in your outline because I kind of wanted to have like this organic reaction. I believe it's from October 23rd. I may have the date wrong. I accidentally cut
Okay.
it off on this screenshot here. But it says, friendly reminder to all you keyboard warriors. You can hate my takes, but you can never kick my ass. And what's accompanied with it is a video of you full mohawk too, by the way. Great look for you,
Mhm.
honestly. And you're fighting this guy who it's pretty apparent from the very first action that you guys have in this clip. He does not know what he's doing or forgot within the fight. You throw a front snap kick toward his head. He drops his hands completely, never picks them back up. So then you
Mhm.
throw a second front snap kick. He just, parries it, gets out of the way a little bit. And then you feint for a third one and alter with a spinning back kick right in the ribs, and he's down for the count after that. It's a great ground and pound after the fact. What drew you to MMA originally? Are you still a fan to this day? And what prompted you to tweet that with this video?
so so yeah, I fought professionally for 10 years. I've been training for damn, it's been six. No, I started training when I was 18. So once I wasn't gonna go play college football or college basketball or anything like that. I was still in college, and I was super competitive. I needed something to do. And this kid I was in class with, he was like, just, come check out this MMA class with me, man. You're pretty strong. You're pretty athletic. Like, just come check it out. So I did and loved it. Like a month later, I had my first fight. It was way different. Like I train fighters now and it's way different now. Like back then, you showed up to train and if you had interest in it, they were just going to throw you in the deep end. They're like, we can get you a fight next weekend if you want to. And being a 18-year-old kid with a chip on his shoulder, you weren't going to say no. So yeah, I fought for a long time. That clip was my first professional MMA fight. That guy talked a lot of shit. That's why, like, he's dropping his hands, and the video's a little grainy. It's a little old. It's from 2015, I think. And he's talking shit the whole time. So I hit him with that spin kick, ground and pound, finished it. And then what was funny is he retired after, like he took the mic and he retired. He's like a local. I'm not gonna call him a local legend. He's fought like 100 times locally and he's got his ass kicked by pretty much everybody. And that was a point of pride for me because all the big dogs at my gym at the time, who were all older than me, because I was the young kid fighting, they'd all fought him, they'd all beat him, but they had done it by submission. They had taken him down, choked him out. I was like, I'm gonna knock his ass out. So I did and he retired. And then like a month later, we were at a separate event. It was a kickboxing event. He was there supporting one of his friends, and we were at the weigh-ins the night before, and he started running his mouth again. So I just looked at the promoter and I was like, hey, if you got one more spot, me and him can run it again. And so we did, and he quit in between round one and round two because I was just lighting him up again. So yeah, I fought for a while. Ended up retiring after I tore my bicep. I was trying. COVID kind of put a stop on a lot of people's careers in MMA, obviously, but I was still training. I was really trying to get back at it, but my body just wasn't cooperating. So in the span of, I think it was like 6 months, I had a really bad concussion that I'd never experienced that before. That scared me, and then I tore my bicep, and I was like, that's probably my body's time telling me, hang it up. I was 32 at the time, so I was like, the UFC at this point probably isn't happening, so might as well hang it up. But I'm still very involved in the sport. I train fighters now, get them ready for their fights. I still watch quite a bit of MMA. I don't love it the way that I used to when I was fighting myself, but I still do. As far as why I tweeted that is because some of the replies that I get are they're hilarious. Like people take really threatening tones and they're like, I'd kick your ass. I'm like, buddy, you would not. Like, just simply put, you would not. Like, you can hate my takes. You can get as mad as you want because I don't think Josh Giddey is the second coming of Magic Johnson, but you could not kick my ass. It just would not happen. So that's why I tweeted it just to remind the timeline a little bit. Like you guys, you can get a little dicey with your comments. Like don't forget who you're talking to here and just remember that there's people out there that can hurt you.
For what it's worth, as someone who does also appreciate MMA, thought this was a great example of how to approach a fight. You throw something out, you throw it again to see how they react, and then you fake a third time, just hit them with something else. Thought it was great for them all around.
That was the first time I'd ever thrown that kick too. First time I'd never done it sparring or anything. Afterwards, my coach was like, "Where the fuck did that come from?" And I was like, I don't know. I was just in that flow state." And then it became like a signature for me. It became something I did in a lot more fights after that.
You mentioned that you're a trainer for mixed martial arts now. Was that a benefit from being an MMA fighter as well, just being around them all the time? And then, like you said, with COVID, did you just kind of transition into that, or was there another opportunity that caused you to do this?
No, so I've been a trainer for a while. It was one of those things where when I was 21, I was basically living in the gym. I was working out all the time. I was training as a fighter, and this guy Armando, he kind of became like my mentor in a lot of aspects. Him and my buddy's dad opened the gym together. He was like, dude, you're in the gym all the time. You need to go ahead and get certified as a trainer, and like you could make a real career out of this. So I took his advice. I did. And for the first, couple of years, it was just honestly something I was doing on the side because when I say I was an MMA fighter, I wasn't a guy who was just like showing up and fighting. Like I was training night and day. I really thought I was going to be in the UFC. I was really pushing to get in the UFC and pushing hard. So when other people, and I'm in my mid to late 20s, and you know, you got your friends settling down and having careers, having kids, stuff like that. I wasn't doing that. I was focused strictly on that. So I was training people on the side, but I wasn't pursuing it as a career. It was a part-time job, and I was working part-time security too, but my career was professional fighter. So over the years doing that, I built some connections with my past experience playing football and basketball and everything. I built some connections. I did some interning for some high schools, helping with their strength and conditioning, and got involved with the athletic training side as well as just the strict personal training side, like the everyday person who just wants to lose 10 pounds kind of thing. So then once COVID hit, then it became much more like, okay, let's make this a career now. Like fighting's pretty much over. And then when I eventually retired, it was like, this is over. So now it's, you know, this is what I want to do now. So when I say I train fighters, I don't train them in their boxing or jujitsu or anything like that. I strictly handle their strength and conditioning. I let their coaches handle all that. Although it is nice for them to have a guy like me who's been in there before. So during our sessions, we can just talk a little strategy and stuff. I train football players too. I train a couple basketball players. I train a lot of general population people, some powerlifting in there as well. So now it's like, that's my full-time career is just training people.
So what does a typical day look like for you then? There's so many different avenues that you could take with, the regular Joes and the particular athletes. So what does like a regular workload look like for you?
So tomorrow and Mondays are my busiest day. So tomorrow's an easy day to lay out for you. Tomorrow, my day starts at 4:30 in the morning. That's when I have my first clients. They're an older couple that is just, you know, one of them had a hip replacement surgery. The other one probably is going to need it soon. And they're just trying to stay strong. So I've been training with that. They've been training with me for like 5 years now. And we train that early because one, they're old and they're up that early anyway for some reason. And two, it lets them train and then get to their job for the rest of the day. So I train them and then I go right into training a professional fighter. He's got a fight coming up in March. He just scored a knockout about a month ago. So we go right from general population into a fighter. And then I have, another fighter right after that who's the opposite. The first fighter I train, he's late in his career. The next one I train after that, he has his second fight, on Friday actually. So at this point, it's just last minute. You know, we're going to do a quick circuit to get the blood pumping, nothing too crazy. And then my other client, I got three more clients the rest of the day, and they're all general population. Just one of them is trying to hit a 250-pound bench press. The other one is just trying to stay fit, and then the other one is trying to lose. I think their goal is like lose 20 pounds by June. So yeah, I hit a little bit of everything, and it makes for an interesting day because you deal with so many different types of people throughout the day with so many different types of goals, and I wouldn't have it any other way because I never really know what I'm going to get every day.
When you're dealing with a general population, just people trying to better themselves, is there something in particular that you would stress they focus on more than other areas that they're working on?
With all people, regardless of if they're a professional athlete or general population, my biggest things that I focus on are range of motion. So it's a lot of like a lot of mobility work. That's one thing that people have kind of noticed about me is like if you come work with me and you got back problems or hip problems or anything, like we're gonna fix them because I just have a lot of stuff that I do that gets you more mobile because everybody, whether you're a professional MMA fighter whose body gets broken down for a living, or you work at a desk and you're breaking your body down being hunched over all day, like everybody can benefit from it. So that's like my main pillar is just getting you more mobile. And then I also do athletic training with everybody. So even like the 60-year-old that I train, he does box jumps because I'm like, people have this thing where they're like, I'm old, I can't jump anymore, I can't run anymore. And it's like, no, you got old because you don't jump, because you don't run anymore. Think about when you were a kid, you were outside all the time just running and playing and jumping and doing whatever. And then you get old, and for a lot of people, once they graduate high school and they're done playing high school sports, they never run full speed again. They never jump as high as they can again because even if they are active, they'll maybe go for like a light run, but it's not a sprint, or they'll go to the gym and they'll lift weights, but they're not doing anything that's moving their body in an athletic way. So I'm a big believer in getting you doing plyometrics again, getting you doing a little bit of sprint work again, and just loosening and de-aging those joints a little bit. And it has big benefits for a lot of my clients. A lot of them The fighter that I'm working with tomorrow, the one who he's been in the game for a while. He's a local legend here. His name's Ozzy Judge. He's had I don't even know how many fights at this point. He's fought in Japan. He's fought all over the country. But when I first started working with him, he struggled to do a 20-inch box jump. He got up there, but it was shaky. And now he's hitting 38 inches, and we've been working together for like 2 years now. So no matter, and he's in his early 40s right now. So no matter how old you think you are, like you can always de-age your body a little bit. Just the key is getting more mobile and moving a little bit more like an
We are basketball fans. This is a basketball channel. I kind of want to parlay your profession, what you do for a living, into your fandom of the game. I do
athlete.
want to ask, though, there is a tradition that you have on Chicago Bulls game day where you lift in a Chicago Bulls jersey. I have to ask, what is the strangest jersey that you have? What is the craziest shout that you have? Do you have like a Vander Blue Chicago Bulls jersey hanging around somewhere? Or
No, I have a Ben Gordon, which to me isn't crazy, but when I wear it, people think it's crazy because kids today don't know who Ben Gordon is. Ben Gordon's one of my five favorite Bulls of all time. My Caruso probably isn't going to age that well the further he gets away from the Bulls tenure. People are going to be like, what the hell are you wearing that for? People give me weird looks for that one right now. Other than that, it's not too weird. I had a Carlos Boozer back in the day, and I wish I still had it because I would still wear that thing. People would be very confused by that one. But yeah, Joakim Noah, Derrick Rose, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, DeMar DeRozan. I still have my Zach LaVine. The Zach LaVine one, by the time Zach LaVine got traded, the Zach LaVine jersey was so symbolic because I got it literally like a month after they traded for him. I live in Minnesota, so I'd watched a lot of Zach LaVine with the Timberwolves, and I was a big believer. I was like, hell yeah, we got Zach LaVine. And by the time he was traded, that jersey was so faded and so raggedy looking. And I'm like, this is the perfect metaphor for Zach LaVine because when we got him, he looked like this nice new shiny young player. And now we traded him. He's this raggedy ass player that nobody wants anymore.
one of the biggest talking points, especially in the NBA, is how frequently players, especially star players, get injuries. The Achilles bug has been going around. And the big talking point is, well, if you shorten the season, that would help recovery. You've been pretty adamant against that. And I think I understand why you feel that way. And I think in some aspects I'd agree. Could you lay that out for us, like specifically why you think we shouldn't shorten the season?
Well, first off, it's been 82 games since the start. So if we shorten the season, we're going to mess with so many different records and so much history of the game. And yeah, people say the season is too long, and I'm not necessarily going to disagree with that. But at the same time, this is strictly an NBA problem. Like, I don't know if you saw the interaction I had like 3 weeks ago that was super funny because I pointed out, I'm like, baseball doesn't have this problem. Hockey doesn't have this problem. NFL doesn't have this problem. Like, NFL has a problem with people getting hurt for sure because it's the most physical sport on the planet, but they don't have players load managed. Players like Patrick Mahomes isn't sitting out Thursday night football because it's a short turnaround on and he's worried about his hamstring or anything like that. Like these dudes just show up and play. In baseball, they play 162 games, and somebody told me I was attacking the NBA because baseball's white and hockey's white, and I was like, dude, you don't even follow my page. I know nothing about baseball. I know nothing about the NHL. When I got my numbers to back it up, I literally had to Google top five baseball players because I couldn't name a baseball player. I don't follow that sport at all. And from Googling it, Aaron Judge is who Google told me was like the best baseball player right now. And I think out of their 162, he played 158. So they're playing more games. Their players aren't load managing. Their players aren't getting hurt. It's strictly an NBA problem. And it's more importantly, it's a recent NBA problem. Like this wasn't happening before. And people will point to the back to backs and they'll point to whatever they want to. They've taken back to backs largely out of the game. They still happen, but they happen at a far less frequent rate than they used to. And they try to make it better for the players now. Like I think it was right around it was either before the bubble season or after the bubble season where they mandated like if we're doing a back to back, it's going to be in the same city. So like if you're playing the Bulls and you have a back to back, it's going to be like you're playing the Bucks the next night or the Pacers or something. So you're not traveling so much. Where before you could have a back to back where you're playing the Heat at 7 p.m. on Friday. You got to turn around at 5 p.m. and play the Clippers or something. They didn't. they didn't give a shit back then, and they were flying coach mostly back then too. So that's my thing is for a large history of the league, this has been fine. And there was less technology back then. The shoes were garbage for most of the league. Have you ever tried playing in a pair of the original Jordans, like any of the Jordans that he played in from the 80s or 90s? Your feet will be fucked up for days afterwards. Like the shoes we have today are so much nicer. The technology's better. People don't smoke cigarettes at halftime of the games anymore or drink beers right after the games anymore. Like players take care of their body more, and we're having a higher rash of injuries, and people want to point at all the reasons. But for some reason, they're ignoring the simple fact that these players play less than ever. They play less than ever. They practice less than ever, and people don't want to correlate that with a higher injury risk. That's my hypothesis, and I say hypothesis because it's nothing that I can prove, obviously, but just looking at the data and I do acknowledge the game is much harder to play. I watch a lot of old basketball because I enjoy the old game. But even me, somebody who loves the 90s or early 2000s, that era, like you go watch those games, there is a lot of standing around. There's not a lot of standing around anymore. And that definitely does play into the fact that there's more injuries. But at the same time, those players were playing more minutes. Those players, you look at the minutes per game averages, they were averaging like the top guys were like Allen Iverson led the league at 44 minutes a game in a year one year. Like, can you imagine somebody playing 44 minutes a game today? Like, nobody would let that happen. People got mad when Thibodeau played his guys 36 minutes a game every day. So the players played more back then. The game was, yes, it wasn't as hard on you from a movement standpoint back then, but it was more physical. They were hitting a lot more back then, and the injuries were down back then. So I think they just need to play more. There's a difference between being injured and being hurt. A lot of guys are going to be hurt because this is basketball. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like, that's part of the game, is seeing who's going to survive the test of time throughout the regular season. Back in the day, people would play when they were hurt. Now they don't play when they were hurt. There was a Kevin Garnett interview that I shared a couple weeks ago. It was one of his last Timberwolves seasons, and he was sitting down with John Thompson, and it's one of my favorite interviews to see how passionate Kevin Garnett was. Like, he's literally fighting back tears because the Timberwolves sucked and he hated losing, but he's talking about how Thompson was like, "Are you 80% for these games? Like, is your body 90%? Where are you at?" And he's like, "Dude, I would love to just be like 60%, but I'm not going to sit out. I'm going to play." And that's kind of what we've gotten away from in today's game. It's just the toughness aspect. And I think that's one of the reasons we're seeing more injuries. Is guys aren't in the same game shape because they're not playing as much and they're not practicing as much. So I went on a long tangent there, but I understand when people say they want to shorten the season to a certain extent, but I just don't understand how people just blindly ignore the fact that this wasn't a problem until Kawhi Leonard came around.
I think it's an incredibly nuanced conversation. Obviously, you raise a lot of valid points. There, what you were talking about, the game being more explosive, it's faster paced. The pace between now and even the 2010s is like night and day difference. And what we're seeing is a lot of soft tissue injuries. I think that the answer could be shorten the season, but I think a better answer could be to just extend the season, not adding more games, but just start the season 2 weeks earlier, end the season 2 weeks later, and you can eliminate all the back to backs, all the 3 and 4 days, all the 5 and 8 days. Like, stuff like that could really go a long way. And a lot of it too is, I mean, the rest and recovery period after doing something that strenuous is so important to allowing your body to recover the right way. And when we have these athletes playing a game that ends at 10:30, you're hopping on a jet at 1, you're landing in the next city at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then you wake up for a noon run through. Like, it's not enough time for it's not enough time for a regular Joe to recover. So you think a professional athlete's going to do that as well? It's so tough. And of course, the NBA would never shorten the season because of the capitalism of it all, but I don't understand why they wouldn't try to corner the market more, just to extend on both ends just a little bit. Because basketball, probably more than football and baseball and those other things, is a year-round sport. So just edge it
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, and I think it would help the athletes in the long run.
I would agree with that, and I've never understood why the season plays out the way that it plays out. Like, to me, the season starts too early. Like, we're starting before Halloween now. To me, I'm like, what are we doing? Everybody cares about football at this time. Was it 20, the 2020 to 21 season? They started at Christmas and they got done at the end of July. To me, that's perfect. Like, that they kill themselves right now. the finals will wrap up in early June. You're missing out on all of June, all of July when there's nothing going on. There's no football. There is baseball, but it's not it seems to me from an outside perspective, people really only care about baseball when it gets close to the postseason, that like August, September stretch. So in June and July, we're waiting for something to watch, man. So why would the NBA not extend their season and carry into July? That would just make so much more sense to me. And wait until Christmas to start the season, because nobody cares about the NBA before Christmas anyway. Christmas Day is always like the NBA's coming out party. So I think what you're saying is true. They could extend the season out like the length of time and spread these games out more for sure. Like that would definitely help.
I do like the idea of starting at Christmas because that's, for better or for worse, the casuals are lifebloods for leagues. Whether you're a casual NFL fan, you probably start tuning in during the Thanksgiving games. If you're a casual MLB fan, you probably start after the All Star game. Like, it's just the way things are. So starting around Christmas, where all the casuals flood in, is probably the best case scenario for any NBA fans. I do want to ask you about when the injuries happen because of your profession. Does it change the way that you view them in any way? Like when you see somebody roll an ankle or they have hamstring tightness or whatever, do you think, oh, that's what this recovery time looks like? Oh, they'd have to do this to recover. Like, is the game different for you now that you're a trainer?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had a different perspective on it, I think, because I've had so many injuries myself. Like when Derrick Rose tore his ACL, I'd torn my ACL 2 weeks before that. So I was laid up on the couch recovering from my own ACL, watching him. And as soon as he went down and the way I saw him grab it, I was like, shit, that's the same way I grabbed my knee. That's going to be an ACL. So it's like, having my experience has always given me like when a good example is I use Patrick Willis as an example because it's a different sport, it's the NFL, but he retired early because he had chronic turf toe. And a lot of people are like retiring because of a toe. From my MMA career, I now have the same condition he did, which is arthritis in your big toe, which is just chronic turf toe from breaking it so many times and dislocating it and never healing right. And I understand 100% why he retired, because there's mornings where just walking, I'm like, oh my God, this is painful as hell. And it gives you a different perspective when you've been through it yourself, because you see so many people online that are like, oh, just play through it. It's just like, well, I don't understand. It's like, nah, like some of these you can't. The Derrick Rose example is a great one because a lot of people were like, I don't understand why he's sitting out the whole season. Like Adrian Peterson played in the NFL 6 months after doing it. Why can't Derrick Rose? And it's like, it's different sports, different bodies. So having my own experience and then my experience as a trainer definitely helps. And it kind of changes how I think about it too. Like with the rash of Achilles injuries that we're getting, I'm looking at it from a trainer perspective. And it's one of those things where this is just a hypothesis because we don't have any data to support it. But honestly, the way these guys train now, I think is having more to do with that than the amount of games that they're playing. Because it's not like if it was the games that they're playing, we would see Achilles injuries every postseason. You'd see somebody blow out their Achilles. That simply doesn't happen. This last postseason where we lost Lillard, Halliburton, and Tatum to it, that's the first time I can remember a major season-ending injury to a star player in a postseason in my life. And I've been a basketball fan for a long time. So, but I look at the way these guys train in the off season, and if you look before, and I'm not even talking 80s or 90s, I'm talking like 2000s, Kobe Bryant, his off season, it was just playing a lot of pickup. He hit the weights for sure. He had a crazy work ethic, but he played a lot of pickup. He got a lot of jump shots off. And now you got guys like watch Jason Tatum's workout videos with Drew Hanley, who is one of the worst people to follow on Twitter, one of the most annoying basketball trainers in the world. But watch his workouts. And he trains Tyrese Halliburton too, and he might even train Damian Lillard. I'm not sure about that one, but all their stuff, it's this step back off one foot, this change direction off one foot, this decelerate this way off one foot. So they're training this strict movement pattern repetitively over and over and over. And I don't think it's coincidence that that's the same movement pattern that these guys are blowing their Achilles out on. So I think it has a lot to do with the way these guys train. It has a lot to do with the way these guys are brought up, where by the time they hit the NBA, they have millions of miles on their bodies from the AAU circuit. And it has a lot to do with the skill trainers, this repetitive motion and just the way the game is played now too. If you watch how they referee the game now and a lot of the acceleration and deceleration and step backs and step throughs and everything they're allowed to get away with now, like all those movements are kind of they're kind of prime ways to pop an Achilles. Like that's how you pop an Achilles is taking a step back and then taking a step forward when that tendon is in its most vulnerable position. So there's a lot of factors to why guys are getting hurt, but I don't think it's a coincidence that the rash of Achilles injuries is also spiking. We're seeing so many of these skill guys strictly work on that movement pattern.
I do have one last question for you before we transition into a game, and I'm going to give you your dream job, or at least what I think would be your dream job. You are now the head trainer for the Chicago Bulls. What is the first thing that you are implementing for every player to do, and who are you taking special interest in?
Well, the first thing I'm implementing for every player to do is a plyometric program because what we learned from Lonzo Ball's injury a couple years ago is we got a lot of insights into their training, and a lot of it was pretty old school. It seemed to be that they really weren't doing much plyometric work. It was just kind of old school strength conditioning. They had the same strength conditioning guy who was there when Michael Jordan was there. So in some fields, it's cool to have a guy who's got that kind of citizenship. But in the strength conditioning game, man, if you're not on top of it every single day, like we get new data. That's one thing that makes me a good trainer is I'm kind of a nerd about it. I'm always reading different scientific journals and different things and just finding out like what's changed because the information I got when I got certified as an athletic trainer in 2012, all of it's obsolete now. So if you got a trainer who's been there since the 90s, are we sure that he's staying up to date on this stuff? Because he's also got a position that's paying him well over six figures, and he doesn't necessarily have the hunger to constantly be reading those new things coming out and staying on top of the game. So a lot of their methods seem to be outdated. But yeah, I would definitely implement a strict plyometric program for every single athlete. And then I would also just make sure that we're working on the mobility of these guys, not just the legs, but the lower back, the hips, everything like that, and just making sure we're getting on an actual strength training program because a lot of their players over the years you've seen like some of them have done really good as they've grown. Like Zach LaVine, he got much stronger throughout his career and it really paid off for him. And he didn't seem to sacrifice much athleticism from it. But then you look at Patrick Williams and he's bulked up over his career and he went from a guy coming out of Florida State. He looked athletic. He looked long. He looked like he could move. Now he's just like a board out there. He can't move at all. So implementing like a athletic plyometric program would be step one. And then just making sure we're getting them like on strength programs that make sense for their position and skill set.
I think that this has been a really insightful conversation. Love being able to have you on. I don't think that normal people could have this kind of conversation, so I really appreciate it, you being able to give your expertise here. Before we start plugging away all your stuff and where people can find you, I have a this or that conversation for you. I'm going to give you three examples here. You can only pick one. If you're ready, I'm
Okay.
ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
You've talked about your love for both in this conversation, but you can only pick one. Do you only lift weights, the strength training, or do you only hoop?
Only hoop. I like lifting weights. Lifting weights is great stress relief, but there's just a freedom that comes with playing basketball, man. Especially pickup. Like even if you don't have a good game, you're not hitting your shots. You feel so much better. Like we live in an age where people talk about mental health so much. There's nothing that's better for your mental health than getting out there and playing some pickup hoops with your boys.
It's funny that you just mentioned Patrick Williams because he's a part of this next question. Would you rather have the Chicago Bulls win a championship, but Patrick Williams is the finals MVP? Or would you rather have a guaranteed position where the Bulls don't make the playoffs at all for the next 5 years?
I'll take the title just because it'd be nice to see my team win a title. I mean, I was 8 years old when they won it, so like, I'd been a Bulls fan for a year at that point, so I didn't understand what was going on. So yeah, I'll take the title. If Patrick Williams goes on, I don't even know what the comp would be for a run like that for Patrick Williams to ever get a Finals MVP. But if he goes on some kind of like T.J. Warren in the bubble playing like a god when he'd been a scrub his whole career type run, then I'll take it if that gets us a title.
I think that it would be really funny for like the Chicago Bulls annals of history, just the finals MVP. Jordan, 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 Patrick Williams. Just like the
Like,
polar bear in Arlington.
like I don't even know how that would happen. He'd have to be hitting his threes and playing decent defense. I have no idea how that would even happen. That would break my brain, honestly.
And then this last one here, I'm actually going to give you three options to pick from. You can only pick one, and you're the only person in my little series here that is going to have three options. So feel
Hell
pretty
yeah.
special about that one. You can only pick one to never get hurt. Jay Williams, Derrick Rose, or Lonzo Ball.
Derrick Rose. It's easily Derrick Rose. Like Jay Williams, whatever. Like, no disrespect, Jay Williams. You were going to be a good basketball player for sure. Were you ever going to be an all star? I'm not sure. Like, he's kind of got romanticized in history a little bit. He had an all right rookie year, but if you look at it, it wasn't that great. So that's whatever. Lonzo, like I love Lonzo Ball. I tell the story all the time on my page of I went to the Timberwolves Bulls game as the final game of the season, that 21-22 year. Lonzo had been out for months at that point, but he still made the trip. And I was sitting pretty close, and there was a kid in front of me. He had Alonzo. He was probably 6 years old. Had a Lonzo jersey. Had a big sign saying how much he loved Lonzo, his favorite player. He spent the entire first half just screaming for Lonzo. And at halftime, he got Lonzo's attention, and Lonzo waved him down, signed to the poster for him, gave him a jersey, took pictures with him. For the rest of the game, the kid was just like on cloud nine. I'm sure that probably made that kid's life. So from the human aspect, like I've always loved Lonzo since then. I still ride for him to this day because of that, because I just think he's a really good human being. But Derrick Rose, man, he was the youngest MVP in NBA history. Like if Derrick Rose doesn't get hurt, do we even care about Russell Westbrook? I don't know, because Russell Westbrook really took the crown from Derrick Rose of being the most athletic point guard, and that the new generation kind of guy that people would latch onto. If Derrick Rose never gets hurt, Russell Westbrook doesn't become Russell Westbrook. He still is a good player, but he was never going to reach the levels that Derrick Rose did.
When I was writing this question down, I kind of figured that was the very easy like layup of an answer. That's why I threw in the third option just to see if I can throw you off the scent a little bit. But yeah, I think that Derrick Rose is an easy answer for me as well. Not being a Chicago Bulls fan, I remember specifically where I was. I was sitting at the foot of my bed watching that game in my childhood home, and him going down, and like very instantly I knew because the way the ESPN shot it, a lot of the action was just moving on, and then when the whistle blew, it went right back to Derek, and just the way that his body was positioned, the way he was holding his knee, I was like, oh man, that's it. Oh boy, and like there were moments throughout his career where it seemed like he still had it, like he could overcome this devastating injury, and it just was never really the case. He had one hell of a career after the fact, but it's just his wings got clipped, and I'd never think it really should have been. He shouldn't have been in that game while they were up against the Sixers that much, and we can blame Thibodeau for all that. But I think, especially in the sports world, if it's your time, it's your time. Like he was going to get injured one way or another, and this is not like any. I mean, I'm sure it's science based. I don't have the background for it. I think it's the way that he walks, like the way his gait is, that like a herky
Okay.
jerky back and forth. I think that
Yeah.
because you see it in Kitty the Jet Smith as well, the way that he walked, and he had they called him knocking knees Kenny. So it's just like the way that you
Mm.
walk and present yourself could cause injuries like that. So that's my perceptive of it. So yeah, the Derrick Rose thing, man, it still hurts my heart a little bit. And I'm not too much of a bit
It's
to admit that when he scored 50 for Minnesota, I cried a little bit. That was emotional as hell.
oh, dude, that night I was supposed to have a date that night, and I canceled the date. Like we were supposed to meet at like I don't know 7:30, maybe 8. And I saw Derrick Rose cooking, and I texted her. I was like, I'm not gonna make it tonight. We're gonna have to do it tomorrow night. And I stayed home and I watched it because I was like, this is my boy. Like the sad thing with Derrick Rose is obviously the injury, but I think people who weren't around back then and people who didn't watch him recovering from that, they don't realize that the injury isn't necessarily what did it physically for him, because if you watched him after, he still had it physically. He was still the fastest guy on the court. He could still get to the hoop whenever he wanted. What the injury did is it took his fearlessness away. So before he used to attack the rim with reckless abandon and he would dunk it on you, he'd do whatever. Once he came back from the injury, all the athleticism was still there, but he didn't trust his body anymore, especially because the next year, like 10 games in, he tore his meniscus in the other knee, which is kind of common for an ACL injury. So he lost. He still had the ability, but just mentally he could never trust his body the way he did again. And that's the sad part to me, is like you have to think that he knew, like in his mind, he had to know that he had the ability to do it, but to not have the confidence to trust your body to do it when you're that skilled. That's tragic.
Other than the melancholy ending here, I think this was a great conversation. If people are interested in you, where can people find you and what are you working on?
So they can find me on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. All of it, it's the same handle, J Talks Hoops. I got a Substack too if people like actually reading stuff. I published one yesterday that was my all-star picks, uh, at like kind of the New Year's Eve point of the season. So yeah, it's the same handle everywhere. And probably the best place is honestly probably I'm on Twitter the most just because it's the easiest. You just type out a tweet. So like earlier in the pod when you were like, I'm gonna bring up this tweet from October from me, I was like, I talk a lot of shit. Hopefully this isn't something me saying something that's aged really badly. Because I'm sure if you go on my archive, like that's my favorite thing is when people pull up like, oh, in March of 2023, you said this about this player, and now you like him. I'm like, it's 2 years later. Like, yeah, my opinion can change. Like, I don't got to be married to a take. So yeah, just follow me on Twitter, and you'll see some extremely mid takes, and maybe some funny takes from time to time too. Like, I hope that people out there who do follow me do realize that probably 90% of what I do is sarcastic. Like, I don't hate Josh Giddey or hate Kobe White as much as the tweets would have you think. I like to be sarcastic with stuff, and we're Bulls fans. We gotta laugh through the pain. So that's what I try to do.
All your links are going to be in the description. Please go give them a follow. While you're down there, check my links in the description. Going to be places where you can follow me: Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, literally everywhere you can think of. I also have a Discord community that I would love for you to be a part of. That's going to do it for Justin. That's going to do it for me. Be kind. Tell somebody you love them. We'll see you in the next one.
Barely scraping by. Trying to stop puffing. I'm trying to be one of the greats.